Mr. Knut Svanholm, welcome to the Fix the Money podcast. How are you doing?
Doing great. How are you doing, Nico? All okay?
I'm very well, thank you. It's been only, I think it's been 2 weeks since we saw each other in Munich, where we talked about what makes people tick, and your new book that you just finished. You told me you just finished your new book. You know what it's going to be called?
It's gonna be called Praxeology: The Invisible Hand That Feeds You.
Very nice. And when are we going to be able to read it?
In a couple of months from now. It still needs a foreword. I'm waiting for that, and I'm waiting for the typesetting to be done, and the designing the cover, and the some illustrations. I think there will even be some illustrations in the book this time around. So there's a lot of examples from Robinson Crusoe in the book. Robinson Crusoe. There's even a term called Crusoe economics, right? So when you explain economics, you do it from a Robinson Crusoe perspective to build from the individual and up. And I do that a lot in the book. So there's a ton of Crusoe quotes in the book already, and we're making it sort of Crusoe themed, and therefore we're looking for. I think the entire Robinson Crusoe book is from the 19th century, and it's all free for anyone to copy anything from, including the illustrations. So I think
it's out of copyright.
Yeah, exactly, it's a Creative Commons thing. So there are a lot of nice illustrations from that book on the web that we can use, and like that's the idea right now. We'll see what it ends up looking like, but yeah.
I'm looking forward to the book. I'm going to add. I'm already seeing that everything divided by 21 million on your T-shirt and your mug, and I'm going to add the book. Yeah. Right? Yes. This is what you're. This is what you are.
Shameless shilling. Yeah.
Shameless shilling. This is. I'll put everything in the show notes, of course, where we can buy your stuff and your book. Everything divided by 21 million. So that's the book that we should all be reading until the new book comes out in the middle of what's hopefully a bull market. But we're not going to talk about the price today. We talked about how Bitcoin, maybe changes people, makes us tick. How Bitcoin brings out. I think you talked about in Munich. You talked about how Bitcoin brings out the best type of person that we can be, and we're still both working on that, because if we were already arrived at the best type of person, we wouldn't be drinking so much at the Bitcoin events.
Well,
but it's still
well. It's not it's like price equilibria. It's always aiming for betterment, but there's no such point in reality that can be reached. You can always do better, I believe.
How long did it take you from getting into Bitcoin or buying Bitcoin until you realized that this is not just about investing your money? It's not even just about a better money. It's about working on yourself and meeting people who think alike?
Well, that's also very hard to say, because I think it's a continuous process and it doesn't end. I think we will continue to self-improve. All the Bitcoiners will do, and this is an effect that we've just seen the beginnings of. I think our grandchildren will have even more self-improvement built into their very being because of Bitcoin existing within them. That this is the thing. Like since I do this full time, I think even more about Bitcoin than I did before. And the rabbit hole is truly bottomless. The latest ideas I have are around this thing you say, that Bitcoin, we're all Bitcoin, and that this is true not only metaphorically but literally. I mean, it's easy to say that if you memorize a seed phrase, so you have 12 words that are actually magic, and the only place that those words exist is in your head, then you are your Bitcoins. There's no distinction between you and your Bitcoins, because they exist solely in your mind. But if you think about that a bit more, that's true for all Bitcoins. Like, if you know the location of a private key, that's also your mind knowing something that others don't, and others might not be able to decipher. Like, if you find a if my mother finds a piece of paper with 12 random words of it, she's not going to think Bitcoin. Like, so
Maybe your mother would.
yeah, maybe my mother would, but many other mothers wouldn't. And the thing is, it's you can't really own Bitcoin. You can't even possess them. All you can do is memorize a secret, basically. So it's all about remembering a secret. Which to me means that we are Bitcoin. And if you think about everything else in it, like the computers doing the mining, so-called mining, and everything else, every software that surrounds it, every time we talk about Bitcoin on social media and all of this, all of that is just an extension of our minds. The internet is just an extension of the human mind. A computer is nothing but a fancy abacus. All it does, it's a tool that has one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to calculate things that take too much time for people to calculate. So it's just letting us be better at mathematics. And by doing that, you can unlock so much else, like graphics and audio and stuff. But that's all just calculation, if you boil it down. It's just all ones and zeros. So it's all information, all of it. Yeah, and I find this endlessly fascinating because it blurs the lines and completely devastates everything about what we thought we knew about ownership and possession and property and so forth from earlier on.
You know what's funny? I see threads about ChatGPT and AI can do this and everything develops within like 1 week to the next. And people seem to be very open to this. Yes, people say, it's going to take our jobs, but there's lots of opportunities here. People seem to be very open. And when we talk about Bitcoin changing the structure, the monetary structure and the rule structure that we live in globally, basically, because the monetary structure is global, people are dismissing it. They will not say they will not. They won't have the same reaction that they have to ChatGPT. Maybe those who try it, yes, but not those who just think about theoretically. Do you have an idea why this could be the case?
Yeah, like so much else with humans, I think a lot of it stems from the hope that there's a free lunch somewhere. People want there to be a free lunch. And I believe that that's why they believe in anything they believe in, like God or countries or fiat currencies or governments or democracy. Any belief system that is just an agreement between people on a subset of beliefs stems from this want for there to be a free lunch somewhere. And AI is just the latest iteration of that in that sense, because it's being advertised as being so great so that it will replace absolutely every person on earth. But I think the only thing it does is predict the next word in a text, really. And it's extremely good at that. But that's still very far from general intelligence. Like a human being chooses what to focus on and when, and has agency and like creativity and all sorts of aspects of intelligence that our current AIs simply don't have. So I think there's still a huge difference between what an AI can be used for as a tool and what it actually is in comparison to a human mind. It still has a long way to go. Of course, it's extremely cool, and I love playing around with ChatGPT as much as the next guy. But to quote Terry Pratchett again, real stupidity beats artificial intelligence every time. And Bitcoin is the most robust form of real stupidity we had so far.
Real stupidity?
Yes, meaning that it's human.
It's not. So do you think would framing Bitcoin as like AI for money, would that be wrong? Just as a marketing ploy, not like a deep thought, just like telling people.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're coming from, but I don't really like framing Bitcoin as money at all because it's so much better than money. It does so many other things, and it's not really comparable to any form of money that preceded it. Like it's way better. It's an agreement on a fixed set of rules which we can organize ourselves by and live in a world that has don't steal as its only, like, if we were old Robocop, then we would have that objective, like, don't steal. Like, we can't steal because we're in Bitcoin, so we can't fool each other and steal from one another. And that's a very beautiful thing and a very beautiful path to choose in life, instead of choosing fiat world, which is, where theft is everywhere, in every aspect of society, because we're using a currency that is being counterfeited at all times. So theft is everywhere, and Bitcoin is not that.
And in the fiat world, it is possible. For some, it is possible to get a free lunch.
I would argue that it isn't free, though.
Well, it's free for them. It's not free for the rest of us who pay for it, but it's free for them.
Yeah, but stealing, like, if on the whole, if you choose to aggress instead of participating in a non-aggressive free market, in the long run you lose by not participating, because free markets, when they're truly free and operate on a sound money standard, they can bring so much benefits, so that even though even the thieves that think they can, that might get a short-term free lunch, like only during the lunch break, but then if you get a free lunch, your dinner will be more expensive. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is like, you don't have to rewind the clock so far back to see very nice illustrations of this in the real world. Just the Soviet Union and the US, when I think it was Gorbachev that was visiting the US and just went into a supermarket. Gorbachev or Yeltsin, I can't remember which one, but went into a supermarket in a one-horse town in some redneck state somewhere. And there's more food than he ever saw in his life, as an elitist in this society that was completely based on theft. So even the elites are better off by leaving people alone and letting them engage voluntarily with one another, instead of coercing them into some bullshit that they think they know better. Yeah, a lot of words there.
I love the description of Bitcoin as a set of rules that we all agree on and that we live by and abide by, and the top rule is don't steal. I think this is an extremely cool idea. It's also something that you would tell your friend after like the third joint, right? It's like, no, Bitcoin is not money, man. It's a set of rules, that we agree on.
Yeah.
So how do we win, basically? That's my question. How do we go about this? Do we talk about Bitcoin, use Bitcoin, show people that Bitcoin that changes us? How do we play a role in this?
Well, define win to begin with. Haven't we already won, in a sense? Like, we know about this, so we have a front row seat we have insider information about the future of humankind. That's what we have, and it's insanely powerful. Plus, we have this network of people. Like I think that's also the even more underrated than the advancements in AI. Even though I know AI is behind some of these developments, but the fact that we can do this video call, and that we can just DM each other on Telegram and have whatever, we can communicate so quickly, and your network and my network of people that we are connected to is like 2 steps from every other person in the world. So we know someone that can call. I'm pretty sure that if just you and me, that if we take our networks together and we have like can you ping that person to contact me? There's like 2 steps from us or every other person on Earth. You hear about something called Kevin Bacon numbers, where there was a study at some American university where they plowed through the Internet Movie Database to see how far away from each other actors were. So if you're Kevin Bacon, you have Kevin Bacon number 0. If you've been in a movie with Kevin Bacon, you have Kevin Bacon number 1. If you've been in a movie with someone that's been in a movie with Kevin Bacon, you've Kevin Bacon number 2. And the furthest, the largest number they could find for any actor in the world was 7 steps. And there was like 2, smaller roles in fringe Indian movies or Pakistani movies. But with this was like 20 years back. So with social media and how connected we are today, that we can do this, and we can talk to absolutely anyone on Earth, and ideas are just flourishing everywhere. Pretty soon, and if you found Bitcoin and you use the Lightning Network and you've seen how much better it is than the legacy system, it becomes pretty obvious pretty quickly that borders and laws and stuff are like why should different laws apply to you and me, like just based on where we happen to be born? It's completely ridiculous. Why can't we just do what we want and use Bitcoin and not be aggressed against? But yeah, I think it's just a matter of time before everyone else starts to ask themselves these questions as well. And that the movement of freedom-loving people and people with, you may call it, I prefer the term consensualist, but you can call it voluntarist or anarcho-capitalist or libertarian or anarchist even. But it's all the same thing, really. We prefer interactions that are consensual, that we've agreed upon without forcing the other party to do something.
I would literally just say people.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe whenever when you're fighting like idiots on Twitter, there is 99% it's projection, right? They project onto you what they think is wrong with themselves. And maybe I'm projecting what I think is quote unquote right with myself or to other people, that I think that people are inherently good and that they actually want to work and build stuff for them. But I actually do think that they do, because why wouldn't we be on Earth otherwise? The only thing is that they don't get a fighting chance if you grow up in fiat society, if you are in this hamster wheel that is actually, even within the society, the hamster wheel gets some critique, right? If you're in the hamster wheel and you're in the fiat society and you think money is dead and everything is hunky-dory as long as we go into debt and inflation is good, and I mean, you don't really get a chance to be yourself. You play a role starting at a very young age, and even if you are well off, you also have the same problem, because then your whole life is basically meaningless. You just use your parents' money.
Yeah, and you don't know what to do with it, and most people are very unimaginative when it comes to what they use their money for. But who are we to say? I mean, the thing with people on Twitter and people being wrong on the internet in general, sometimes I feel a strong urge to like reply and engage in a debate on Twitter about this or that, because I'm so frustrated by someone who's intelligent enough to understand some of the concepts but not all of them. Like intelligent shitcoiners, for instance. There are a handful of them that are intelligent enough to make somewhat coherent arguments, but they leave out a couple of crucial insights that they just don't have yet, or that they suppress. And I can feel a very strong urge to engage in a debate with them, but then I don't, because like what's the saying? Never pick a fight with a pig, because what the pig wants is attention, and you're just fueling that fire by calling them out. And I think that effect is very strong within human societies. I mean, being a contrarian for contrarian's sake can bring you a lot of views and engagement on the internet, just taking the opposite position or whatever, and I think that plays into why the empty barrels sound the most, or what's that expression where these fringe political views get more attention on the internet than just sane, level-headed things do. If that makes any sense, yeah. So I try to avoid engaging with dishonesty, because instead of focusing on conflict, like the way I see it, like the hill you choose to die on should also be a valley to live in. Otherwise, you pick the wrong hill, and there are a lot of bad hill to die on pickers out there. So I want to pick the correct hill to die on, and right now I think Bitcoin is pretty obviously the right hill to die on, because it's also a valley to live in, which is what we're doing right now. We're not dying on the hill right now, we're living in the valley.
You know, it took me, now that I think of it, to accept Bitcoin, and I knew about Bitcoin for years. It took me 7 years basically, and I knew about Austrian economics, I knew about central banks, I knew about the negative effects of fiat money. I knew all of this, but I never gave Bitcoin a chance. Basically, I was of the opinion that, you know, this monster will not be replaced by an angel. It will just be replaced. It will just be replaced by an reformed monster, a new monster, right?
Yeah. Cookie monster. Except Cookie Monster. and now that I think of it, it was only after I got in touch with a group of Bitcoiners that made me reconsider this, that showed me that yes, this can work, and that this is what makes Bitcoin so special for me, is to see that people can use it to change their lives within a very short amount of time. And most people who grew up, I mean, we're both old for Bitcoiner years, right? Yeah,
so we have been in our fair share of, you know, discussions, and then, you know, important people sit on stage and say, yeah, we should do better, you know, let's have some drinks now. And I see young people today, when you talk about Bitcoin and to some extent crypto, because it gets lumped in together, I see them taking this and just running with it, and it's beautiful. And I see that Bitcoin, you know, even if it's on the business end and on the society's end, we're very, very early. But I see it already happening, and this is what makes it so special. And this is what convinced me to just, you know, take the jump and not care about the money, and not care about, you know, even like making money. It doesn't matter. It's the rules are actually more, like you said, the rules are more attractive than the money thing.
Yeah, just when you say that, when you put it that way, I thought of a tweet. Bitcoin is more of a get wise quick scheme than a get rich quick scheme. So did you just said that, so you noted in your head, and after we finished you'll tweet it out? Yeah, maybe
right?
I'll tweet it. Maybe I'll tweet it just now. Like the thing it is a shortcut to is wisdom and not wealth. It's a shortcut to both, but more the path. It leads you to wisdom faster than it leads you to wealth. If that makes any sense.
I think it's more important, the wisdom part. The wealth,
of course, it is.
It's and this is also our, like, we have these stories, and we all, you know, we start a podcast with, you know, where's your thinking right now, because I can't force you to think about something else. We need to talk about what's in your head right now about Bitcoin, and it's so much more. I mean, even when you look at people like entrepreneurs, in Germany, for example, we have a very special class of people who built up their companies after the war, right?
Yeah.
And they had nothing. They literally started from zero.
Yeah.
And these people will not be flashy with their wealth. They
No.
will not even, you know, spend their money. They don't care about the wealth. They care about the the experience and the things that they learned along the way. The money is not important.
Yeah, and what they leave behind, I guess, it's important to them as well, right? But maybe your legacy is not only what material things you leave behind. More importantly, it's what you leave behind, what your soul leaves behind. It's like what creative things you leave behind, and all of my kids and all of your kids and all of our grandchildren at some point in the future will be able to listen to this conversation, for instance, and every other thing we put out there. And I think that's very powerful, because now, like, we're recording this not only for our own pleasure or for any potential listeners' pleasure in the present, but at least I record it with my kids in the back of my mind, that they will be able to go back to this and get a better view of who their father or grandfather was, and learn a thing or two, and about what to do and how to do it, but more importantly about what not to do and how not to do stuff. I mean, just...
And also see the progress, right? The progress in your own development and thinking.
Yeah, exactly. And this is like the internet is so powerful in that sense, because if there's not much video of my grandparents, like mm-hmm. Maybe there's like sometime in the 80s when someone got their hands on a huge VHS camera with a bag attached to it, and they found that interesting for like half an hour, and then they never recorded anything else. And if you're lucky, someone converted that VHS tape into something digital so you can watch it today, but that's like the extent of it. There's not much to see, and there's not much to, unless they like wrote a book or released an album or made a movie or something like that, then there's something tangible to remember them by. But I hope, like, for my kids and grandkids, I hope I can leave behind something of value, and I say that in value is subjective. I hope I can leave behind something they find valuable, whether it be Bitcoin or information about other things. Doesn't really matter, as long as they find it valuable and can use it in some way.
I've never thought about it this way. I never thought about that. If I produce 2 or 3 episodes of podcasts in German and in English with video every week, that my kids can watch this in 10 years. It's because they are going to be the first generation that will be able to do this. We are the first generation that has seen the rise of the internet. And we are old enough to remember the good old times without cell phones and without the internet. And it was also cool, I have to say. But we are not the ones growing up with pictures and videos of our fathers and grandfathers. It's our kids and grandkids who will be able to do that.
Yeah. And we see them now, like when they're teens or when they're kids and they're watching TikTok videos all the time and what we consider to be bullshit. But when they're in their 40s and 50s, they will want to learn a bit about their own history and stuff, and they will plow through these things, I believe. And since these are the first generations that have this direct connection to the past, which no generation before them really had. I think that's insanely powerful, because it gives them greater chances of learning from their mistakes. And all of these ideas are out there. Like, it took a long time for quantum mechanics to be accepted as a proper science, right? It was, people thought about it 100 years ago, and today, like, it's very much accepted as being more real than classical physics. And the same thing with the ideas of Mises and Rothbard. That's not 100 years back, but almost, like, maybe 60 or 70 years back with Mises' books. I think if you think ahead a couple of 100 years, that transition will have, because humanity gets smarter over time. It takes a long more if you've understood something before other people have understood it, like Bitcoin, for instance. You view other people as being really slow and like, why the hell can't they get this? It's so obvious. But if you boil it down to like, there's a lot of things you need to understand before you can even begin to understand this thing. And there's a lot of things you need to question. But I do believe that over time, human knowledge spreads over populations, and we do get better at things. And we do learn from our mistakes. And what I'm trying to get at with this is that our future generations will have much better tools for doing that, since they can all look back at video recordings of their parents and grandparents. Then again, it will be easier to forge those recordings and say that your grandfather said this when it's something you absolutely didn't say because of better graphics. But leave that aside for a moment. I still think there's they have more information to learn from.
I mean, just one quick thought. It's still centralized in a way because of YouTube, less centralized because of podcasts. But people will be able to forge stuff that we might have said or not, I might have said or you might have said. But my grandkids can still check if it was published on my channels and in my name.
Yeah, and they can have the original file stored somewhere on a hard drive. Like,
exactly,
it's as easy as that. Yeah.
Or I put it on the blockchain as an ordinal.
Yes. Oh, you should do that, Nico, too. Yeah.
All my videos. So if anybody wants to sponsor me to put all my videos on the Bitcoin blockchain, please give me a call.
It's going to be like the time chain is going to be like rune stones, and we're looking at it and trying to decipher what this language meant, and all it says is like Kilroy was here.
I do see this a lot with people, especially young people who get into Bitcoin. Like you said, they got wise real quick, and then after a while they don't understand why the rest of the world doesn't get it, right? Like you said.
Yeah.
And so as a journalist, you learn to see things from other people's perspective. So I totally get why people don't get it. I get why people who are in a fiat job and have an education in the fiat world don't get it. I get why people who work in the system, in the central bank or banking system, don't get it. I even get why shitcoiners don't get it, because I was once a shitcoiner myself, and I had all the ideas in my head that, the main reason is because they want to be smarter. They can't deal with the fact that they are not the first ones to discover Bitcoin. But of course it's stupid. But so I get it why they don't get it. That's why my question before was, how are we quote unquote winning? Because I do see the fiat system, lashing out. Gigi quoted Augustine Carstens with saying, that the battle is won, and this is already showing that they are super nervous. That is funny actually, but I do see more trouble down the street. I don't think it will. It's just automatically an instant success for Bitcoin, and that's why my question was: so what can we do? Is it just living the lifestyle, talking about it? Is there something else we can do?
I think so, because if you truly boil down what they're trying to fight, they're trying to fight people communicating. that's like we found better ways of communicating with one another. That's what we did when we discovered Bitcoin, and that's all it is. It's just communication. We're communicating information to one another, so we can signal to one another what we find valuable, and how valuable we find the other thing, and what we're willing to sacrifice in order to get something in return. Because giving someone a Bitcoin is giving that person access to be able to show appreciation in the same way as we did when we had the Bitcoin. If that makes any sense. Because
it makes sense.
Yeah, it's just information, and that's all money needs to be, and that's so mind-blowing when you think about what that implies. Because if it's just information, then it's all us. It's not something we own or interact with. It is us. We are Bitcoin, literally.
Is this the reason why I can call up literally any Bitcoin in the world and just start a conversation, even if I don't know them?
I think so. I think it's very connected to that, because we know that we have this tool of immense appreciation for one another in our back pocket to bring up, and that's our ace of spades. Like we all have that ace of spades in our back pocket that we can bring up if we need to. And that just the knowledge that the person you're talking to is able to show you immense appreciation beyond the appreciation they're already showing you by devoting their time to talking to you, because that's also appreciation.
That's true.
There's another level there, and I think that rewires us. The notion that people might be worth their information and what they're saying can be worth literally. It's literally limitless value in what they can say if they give you the 12 words. So like, yeah, I'm not really I don't really know what I'm fishing at here, but I think we're getting somewhere and exploring these ideas.
So because you said technology and the possibility that we talk to each other, for me is amazing. When I realized like that there is this Bitcoin thing and this Bitcoin community, and Bitcoiners being Bitcoiners, and I see this with other people as well now. There is this gravity field that pulls you in, and you decide you have to do something. You have to live the lifestyle. You have to take the plunge. So maybe one question at the end here. How, and by the way, I'm extremely happy that people would take time to talk to me on my channels, and I'm extremely glad that I'm in this position, and because it's not only does it give something to the world, it also gives so much to me. I always leave talking to people like you, I always leave with more energy, not less,
Yeah, same here. It's
not a zero sum, it's a net positive, as Satoshi would say.
Yes.
But very practically, because I've been thinking about this, so very practically, should we, or are we supposed to, really move into the Bitcoin world with our personal finances? Do you know what I mean? Do you live on Bitcoin? Do you get paid in Bitcoin and think in Bitcoin and do you manage your money in Bitcoin, or do you still have your fiat self and your Bitcoin self?
I have a foot in both worlds, definitely. And I think it's very hard in 2023 to not have one foot in both worlds. In order for that to be, you need to live in a place which is... I hate the word circular economy, by the way, because an economy is never circular. It's always connected to stuff, so it's never circular. And money's never in circulation either. It always belongs to someone.
True.
And it changes hands in an instant. So I know you can live solely on Bitcoin by selling your goods and services for Bitcoin and buying everything you need in Bitcoin in places like El Salvador or Costa Rica or such. But in Europe it's hard, and you have to do these little conversion things, and every now and then the more Bitcoiners there are in an area, the easier that becomes. Like when I'm in Madeira, which I am like a couple of times per year now, there's always a bunch of Bitcoiners around, and that makes living a hell of a lot easier because we can always settle everything in sats, and it feels like we as a group have this superpower to do this thing that other people can't. So it's easier for us. So the more Bitcoiners there are around, the easier it becomes to hyper Bitcoinize yourself, if you will. But the important thing, I think, is to accept Bitcoin for your goods and services. To start really adding other things of value to this economy. And yeah, I just started collaborating with that lady we met in Munich. What's it called? Satoshi Store or something? This is embarrassing. I have to look it up.
It's a Satoshi Store.io.
Yeah,
it's
Satoshi Store.
Janine from
yeah.
Innsbruck. Yes.
Yeah. So
and she has your merch on her store now, right?
Yeah. So the collection is available there now, and you can pay in Bitcoin. Which, embarrassingly enough, you still can't do on my page. So I need to get into that soon. But this is the thing: like, you only have that many hours per day to do stuff, and for me, it's like, should I focus on coding my web page myself by hand and figuring out how to integrate B2C Pay server, or should I focus on writing and expanding my network of people that I know and start collaborations with other Bitcoiners who are better and I happen to be a firm believer in the division of labor, so I don't think I should do everything myself. I think I should focus on what I'm good at and leave things that other people are good at to them. And I think that's the way that's the way we're supposed to do things. I mean, that's the most efficient way of organizing ourselves. Like,
I absolutely agree, and also I have the exactly same experience. By the way, Satoshi Store.io is the store where you can get your merchandise. If you use my German discount code was Bitcoin bringt in one word, you get 5% off, and I'll put everything in the show notes. I'd actually, so you can buy my Fix the Money stuff there as well. Don't know if I have the Fix the Money code yet, but the thing is, I was actually the one who came up with the idea. So I approached her and said, why don't you sell my merchandise, because I cannot sell.
I've seen it there. Yeah.
And then she ran with the idea. Now she's putting together this Amazon of Bitcoin merch where everybody can put their stuff,
Yeah.
And it's great.
And in Germany, I mean, the current tax rules, I mean, all taxes around Bitcoin are bizarre to me, because they're trying to put a tax on people voluntarily helping one another, which is it's infringing on free speech and a lot of things. But we can deep dive to that if we want to. But like, if we speak just from a practical perspective in the EU, in Germany there's no capital gains tax after a year, right?
Yes.
Which means that you can run a Bitcoin business where you have a stack that is already older than 1 year, and you can accept Bitcoin for stuff. And whenever you need to do a payout to another Bitcoiner, you just use the stack instead of the inflow of money, and you somehow keep track of how old the money is. Or if you open it in Portugal, for instance, I still think they're not taxed there. I don't know about all the jurisdictions in Europe, but there are. So the thing I see happening in Europe is that countries that have better tax laws around Bitcoin is where places like Satoshi Store.io, Janine's place, and other like Bitcoin warehouses with Bitcoin stuff in them will be, and distribution will be sorted from there, and there will be Bitcoiners in all the other countries receiving payment in Bitcoin, and there's nothing no one can do about it. But the actual physical businesses will, for now, be located in these areas where Bitcoin is more allowed. But like, the thing is, it's truly borderless in that sense, because we really don't have to give a crap about these laws. We can just circumvent them in so many ways, and not doing anything wrong, by the way, but paying all the taxes we're due to pay, and just circumventing the bullshit. And like Bitcoiners are great at that.
Like you said, it's completely insane that there's different rules where you are right now and where I am right now. We're both humans and shouldn't be like that. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
There should also just be one money, which would be the logical end state of the market deciding for money. Yeah. And I think that when you really look into the details of what's happening right now, the fiat system is literally eating itself, because they're trying to come up with these digital tokens as central bank digital currencies, and there's many negative things about it. But one of the problems they have is that those currencies are built for a region, the region with borders. But they also compete with each other internationally, and it makes absolutely no sense, and it makes them go crazy because they don't know what to do about it.
Yeah, and this is like during the Bretton Woods era, there was a fixed exchange rate between all the bigger currencies, right? And they were all pegged to the dollar, and the dollar was redeemable for a certain amount of gold until 1971. When Nixon found it more interesting he found it more important to prolong the Vietnam War in order to win the next election than the future than his grandchildren's odds of survival, basically. So pretty awful thing to do, going off the gold standard. What the fuck happened in 1971 is a great page, by the way. Now, where am I going with this? Yeah, so what happened after that is that currencies no longer had a fixed exchange rate, but you could make money just exchanging currencies between one and another currency. And what does that do? How does that, for the betterment of mankind, like what value does it provide to anyone except the person who's good at predicting what currency will go up and what currency will go down? Absolutely zero net gain for humanity. It's very unproductive.
Zero.
It's just a waste of resources. Misallocation is one word, but I would say it's just wasting resources. It could have been done with, if we had one world currency, we wouldn't have that bullshit, and all those resources wouldn't be wasted. And that person could go and do something productive instead of just looking at numbers on a screen. But that's just a small part of it. That's true for most stocks and bonds and stuff also, because it's so diluted by fiat. So we think that playing these games where we look at numbers and we try to predict patterns in curves that describe the dynamic behavior of humans as if it had any constants, and we avoid those that do that well. It's so vicious and unproductive and bad for everyone.
There is this scene in the beginning of Wall Street, the original movie, when Gordon Gekko is still young and Charlie Sheen is still super young, right? And it's I think it's right at the beginning, maybe even the first scene, when they're in this trading room in the 1980s, and then this old guy storms in and starts cussing and saying fuck, and the whole country has gone to hell since Nixon went off the gold standard, is what he's saying.
Oh,
and then the whole yes, because the whole movie is basically about this. The whole movie is about the negative consequences of fiat money, and greed is good because there is nothing else. There is only greed, right? And there wasn't a job. I mean, changing money or speculating on money wasn't really a job in the 1960s and 70s. Working in the bond department was not interesting. But now, of course, the biggest buildings in any city is the banks, because they are close to the money spigot, and this is the negative consequences of the fiat system. This is what we are trying to get out of.
Yeah, my father always talked about this, and my grandfather on my mother's side was the CEO of a cement company in a one-horse town in Sweden, or a couple of one-horse towns. They moved around a lot, but he was a chemist. That was his degree. Like, he had a master's in chemistry, I think. So he was an engineer. And the thing back then in the 50s and 60s was that the engineer was the entrepreneur. And he hired the economist to do his finances, to sit with the little spreadsheet and whatnot, and do the calculations and make sure that everything was okay. Doing accounting, basically. So you have the engineer as the entrepreneur, and the economist or finance guy as just a subservient of the guy that actually knew things. And today, of course, it's the other way around. You look at TV shows like what's it called, the Shark Tank or whatever, where inventors come to humiliate themselves in order to beg for money from these big sharks that stole everything from everyone, by just speculating in things that were all diluted by fiat and therefore not very productive so it's the illusion of progress. And the thing is, a fully functioning capitalist system does lead to lower interest rates. It does lead to more advanced societies. And when people see that, they say that, like in the fiat world, they see, oh, the interest rates are even negative, and look at this, Tesla stock is going up. So we are progressing into the future. What they don't see is that negative interest rates, it's just a fiction. It cannot exist. People cannot have a negative time preference. That just doesn't happen. So someone is paying for it. It's just that we don't see the money printing directly. And also, like Tesla and companies that are politically well connected and get all these subsidies and can avoid a bunch of taxes and are also closer to the monetary spigot and can get cheaper loans. That's all artificial. So we have this illusion of progress that has replaced actual progress, and it's so depressing when you see it for what it is.
Absolutely, this is where the meme comes from, that we were promised flying cars and now we get clown world, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's also why, I mean, I can't even tell you when people write me, especially from the German speaking world, when I get, emails or messages, it's often people who work with their hands, right? Like farmers or craftsmen or people like the electrician, right? Because they are closer to reality than somebody who would sit in an office and talk bullshit all day and go to meetings and tell other people what to do, and they never do anything. And this is also what gives me, I mean, this is why, the farmer would get Bitcoin, the politician wouldn't, right? The person, the electrician gets Bitcoin, but the central banker doesn't.
Which is perfect.
It's perfect. It's perfect. Absolutely. Well, Knut, we ended on a perfect note. Please tell people, when is your new book coming out? Where can I buy the old book, Everything Divided by 21 Million? Where can I buy your swanky merch? That is very very good for OPSEC. It's like only Bitcoiners will understand what it says.
All right. I just have one question for you first.
Sure.
Can you name me one profession in the world where you don't use your hands? Like, who's not working with his hands? Well, people without hands, obviously, but apart from that,
I think you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, of course, I know the expression. I just think it's funny that's an expression when every single profession on Earth. It's done with your hands, like.
No, the thing is, my English is quite good, but I didn't come up with the English word for Handwerker, which is tradesman, right? It's a tradesman, right?
Handwerkare in Swedish is the same word in Swedish.
Yeah, it's the same Handwerker in German, so I couldn't come up with the word, so I tried to paraphrase. Yeah, the craftsman, right. Yeah.
Anyway, you can get my beautiful merch either with Dirty Fiat from my webpage, knutsvanholm.com, where you'll also find my books, and all links to all the videos are there that I made, these animations with Joni Appelberg, and there's links to interviews like this one and to the talks I've given and so on and so forth, and panels I've been on. I'm lousy at updating the webpage though, so the best way to follow what I'm doing is to follow my Twitter, which is @Knut Svanholm. I have a plan to get on Noster this week, now that I'm done with writing this new book on praxeology that's coming soon. There's a Geyser fund for that, if you want to help me fund the project. Also, check out Satoshi Store and my collection there, this brand new thing. And there's a bunch of stuff coming. I'm going to Australia here in April for Bitcoin Alive in Sydney, and then the plan is to go to Miami for Bitcoin conference in May, and to Prague for BTC Prague in June. So the biggest conference in Australia, the biggest conference in the world, and the biggest conference in Europe those are the next 3 conferences coming up. So I'm very happy about that. And after that, I'll chill with the Bitcoin stuff for a while. And then there's all the conferences this fall as well, like Riga. And I'm going to Bangalore, of all places in the world. And all sorts of stuff. So looking forward to it all, and very much looking forward to releasing this new book that will also be a course on the Emeralize app. So excited for that. I'm on the Orange Pill app and helping them out a bit, and all sorts of stuff. And yeah.
Well, you'll be
optimistic.
Happy to hear. Yeah. I'm first of all, I'll be in Prague. So I'll see you there. I don't know about Riga this year, and I don't know about the other places. I'm not going to Australia, but I can tell you, I just checked that our modest little Substack that we are going to publish this on has 4 subscribers in India. So everybody who is listening to this in India, please come to Bangalore and
in
see
October.
Knut.
Yeah.
In October.
Oh yeah, I'm going to Hotel Princess Ploch, also in Plochingen in the end of. In the end of April. I hope I'm not still jet lagged then.
That's of course the famous Bitcoin hotel south of Stuttgart in Germany, where you can pay for Bitcoin and everybody will just talk about Bitcoin, and they have like rooms in the Bitcoin theme, and they have lots of cool stuff. I haven't been there, but I will be there. I will even do some shows there. We are talking about this.
Yes. We're even planning on putting some of my books in the rooms for people to read when they're there. So we'll see what happens. A lot of fun stuff. Like and my wine will be released pretty soon too. It's all done. I'm just adding labels to it, and I have a distribution solution now. So look out for that. Yeah, follow my Twitter.
Is it your own? Are you doing the wine, or are you just branding it?
I actually picked some of the grapes myself. so I've been I got to know a winemaker down here, and we did a couple of nights of wine testing, which was very fun, and came up with a 70% Bobal Reserva and 30% Monastrell Crianza, which is an old grape and a young grape in the same bottle. That tastes really, really good. It's my favorite wine by far at this point. And 7-to-3 ratio, that's 21 if you do some fancy maths, or not so fancy. So there's going to be a bunch of Easter eggs coming with the wine. It's a very limited edition, of course. 600 bottles are made, and looking forward to finishing that project as well. So a lot of things, throwing things at the wall and see what sticks. That's what I'm doing at the moment, and I enjoy all of it.
That's great. I hope you have a great year, Knut. I'll see you soon, and I hope we can do this again.
Yes. Oh, yes. I have a YouTube show or a podcast. I have one of my own, the Freedom Footprint Show. I always forget I have a podcast because I'm on one. But you should definitely check out the Freedom Footprint Show. We had a show out today with Giacomo Succo, a nice discussion with him, and we've done 26 episodes so far. So we release an episode every Tuesday night.
That's excellent, man. So I'll put the links. I just looked it up on YouTube. You also do the videos. Shout out to Giacomo, and I'll put the links into the show notes so people can sub to the YouTube channel and subscribe to your podcast.
Yes, and all my books are at bitcoinbook.shop, or which is the Consensus Network's webpage. So
perfect. Yeah. I'll put it up there. There's gonna be a lot of links.
Yeah, there's gonna be a ton of links. But the important link is just to follow me on Twitter and eventually on Monster.
Exactly. And then I can just ask ChatGPT, where can I buy Knut Svanholm's books?
Exactly.
Perfect. Knut,
thank you
so much for taking the time. That was a pleasure. Until next time.
Always a pleasure. See you.
Bye.